Hello, ladies. I am Tierra Womack, the founder of The Brave Way, and I am so excited and have the extreme pleasure of chatting with Rachel Brooks, the author of Chasing Perfection. Such an amazing book. And we are just going to dive in deep, talk to her a little bit about the inspiration behind the book and just some amazing tidbits and nuggets that I was able to pull from the book. So without further ado, here is Rachel. Rachel, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I'm so glad that we got a chance to connect and we have so much in common. So I'm really grateful to be here and just, be of service.
Yes, wonderful. And it's like you have to love the power of social media bringing
Right.
us together, right? But just to give a little bit of background to anyone that's new to the community, I started out with a book club, just highlighting, different books that really helped me on my journey or that I felt could help women on their journey out of narcissistic abuse, just trying, being triumphant in their life. And then what occurred was I realized, there are some really badass authors out there that also have a message, that also have a story, and I would love to speak with them in regards to spreading that message and just, kind of getting that out there. So, you are one of the authors that came across my radar in regards to sharing your story, and I'm so excited because listen, let me show. I don't know if people can see. Like I have highlight in here from like the beginning. I started reading and I was like, oh no, I need a highlighter. Like it's
Oh,
that kind
wow.
of book. Yeah, it's that kind of book. It's really amazing. So yeah, talk to us a little bit about who is Rachel Brooks.
And that's actually one of the questions that I prompt in the book
Yeah.
because it was actually, if you asked me this question years ago, I would have just looked at you like, uh, help me out here, like give me
Yeah.
something, and I really didn't have an answer for that. And I think ultimately when I set out on this journey of personal development and self-discovery, it was something that I really had to sit down and ask myself the honest, hard questions like, who am I?
Right.
What's my purpose? And what's holding me back? And all those
Mm.
questions really just kind of they went out one ear and out the other. So when I sat down to answer these questions, it really took about like peeling back the layers, because if you ask me who I am, I could just say, oh, I'm a businesswoman. I'm an
Right.
author. I'm a
Right.
writer. And they're so surface level that we don't really get to the depth of who we are.
Mhm.
So we start chipping away. And when I started thinking more about this, I'm like, but I'm loving, I'm caring, I'm good natured. And start naming all these characteristic traits of who and what I am, and it's
Mhm.
not defined by my label or my title or my occupation. And I think we tend to put those parameters on us,
Right.
and we sell ourselves short because we're so much more than that. We are not just one, two, three things.
Right.
We are a combination as a whole.
Mhm.
And so when we look at who we are, it's really like our most authentic selves. And that's
Yes.
you being you when nobody's watching, when nobody's around. And what do you feel in those moments of just you? And I think
Yes.
for many of us, we have so many distractions that we really don't know who we are.
Mhm.
And then when we get that alone time, we don't know what to do with it.
Right.
Right? We're like, I
Right.
should be doing something. I don't know how to do this like reflection work
Yes.
or any of that. But I
Yes.
was. So
I
I,
love
I think,
that.
yeah, I think just ultimately to sum that up, it's like I have a lot of layers and
Mhm.
there's a lot of depth to me, just as there's a lot of depth to you and
Right.
everyone. And we have to find that. And when we
Mhm.
tap into that, we can really step into who we're created to be, because we have all those gifts and all the qualities and everything that we are, it's like our birthright. So we
Yep.
have those inside us. And it's about
Yes.
extracting that and stepping into it.
I love that because, going back to what you said, there are so many layers. We are expansive, especially women. We really are expansive. And then because I feel as though we as women nurture and take care of so many other aspects of society and other people in our world, that we do lose that. And especially with the women that are, that I work with that are coming out of narcissistic abuse, you find that you don't even know. So you have to go so deep in order to really get back to the core. and then build it back up, you know? So I love that. Well, diving into the book, from the introduction, ladies, she has this, I guess we can call it maybe a parable,
It is. Yeah.
about the butterfly. And I would love for you to just give a quick synopsis of it, because that was powerful. Like, I read it's just one page, but it was so powerful. I went back, highlighted it, and read it like maybe 3 or 4 times, with that message behind that parable. So if you can just dig a little bit deeper into that story with the butterfly, which I happen to love. Butterflies are such a great representation of transformation,
Right.
and just really having bigger vision for yourself and taking flight. So I just love how you started the book with that.
Right. And the first time I actually heard that, the parable, it really hit me because I realized I was in that transitional period of my life where I just felt stuck and I wanted somebody just to, shortcut, quick fix, get me out of this, pain point,
Yeah.
struggle, whatever you want to call it, as quickly as possible. And to sum it up with the story of the butterfly, I'm not sure if anyone's ever heard of it. You guys could Google it. I didn't know who wrote it, so there's so many different variations. It's just
Okay.
phenomenal. So the story of the butterfly really is, the struggle of this caterpillar, is in the cocoon, and as it's trying to come out as that butterfly, a little boy walks by and sees the struggle, and he was trying to help the butterfly come out of the cocoon. And so what he did in that haste was cut the hole of the cocoon to make it bigger so that the butterfly can come out faster and
Mhm.
not have such a struggle. Well, what he didn't realize in that, thinking he's doing good, that butterfly needed that struggle, because in that struggle, forcing its little being out of its
Mhm.
tiny little hole,
Mhm.
it pushes all the fluid into its wings, so when it does come out, it's able to fly.
I love
And
that.
yeah, and so the story, the little boy, he thought he was helping and just doing the, such a caring thing. But when that butterfly came out, its wings were shriveled and it never learned to fly,
Mhm.
because it didn't go through the struggle. It didn't go through the hardships, the pain points,
Mhm.
the hardships that we all endure. We
Mhm.
have to. That's what shapes and shifts us into who we become. It's
Yeah.
like Play-Doh, right? We're molding
Mhm.
it.
Yes.
And we get to be that creator, but we
Mhm.
have to go through the pain. We
Mhm.
have to go through the hardships and struggles of everyday life, as bad as it sucks. But without them, we
Mhm.
wouldn't have the characteristics and the strength that we come out as the overcomer.
Yeah. No, I love that. I mean, on so many levels, just in a nutshell, like going through that so that you can take flight, going
Right.
through that struggle so that you can, achieve your goals, achieve your dreams. I mean, so I know you said there are many versions of that, but when I tell it, because I will repeat this parable often, it will always come back to you because you were my first introduction. And I just think that is powerful. Such a powerful way to start a book.
Right.
I was ready to dive in, but that right there, I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. Let me get my popcorn. I think I was like just out doing some self-care, and I was like, okay, I'm going to bring the book, and I was like, oh, no, I need to focus. Like, this is good. This is good stuff. So, another part of the book, you talk about entering a fitness competition. And, for me, I'm like, wow, you think outwardly about how someone bold enough, because I love fitness, we're fellow fitness junkies, but when you think about a fitness competition, that is on another level. That is like at the utmost in regards to the fitness world. But then you also talk about fundamentally hating yourself in that same moment. And I just thought that was such a beautiful caveat and such an interesting caveat, because it's like you had the the confidence, so to speak, in a sense, to at least enter and see where that took you. But then it was like you still, weren't secure and had that self-doubt about your own self and body. So I just wonder if you can go a little bit deeper into that.
Sure. Yeah. So when I entered in my first fitness competition back in 2012, it I was almost at a breaking point, and I looked at this competition literally as a last ditch effort. It was more out of desperation, because I just wanted out of my struggles. And
Mhm.
so to give a quick background of, for those who haven't read the book yet, I had struggled with body dysmorphia, eating disorders, extreme dieting, extreme exercises, yo-yo dieting, everything in that fitness area, to low self-esteem, self-image issues. And all of that was just really built upon these foundational pieces that led me to that stage.
Mhm.
And after trying so many times and failing, the bikini division was a relatively new division into the bodybuilding world at that point. And I would admire these women for their physiques. And I was just like, okay, well, if I could do the diet, and I hired a coach and a trainer and stuff, and if I thought if I could do this diet, I will eventually look like this girl because I'm doing everything right.
Right.
And long story short, it didn't pan out the way I thought, because I chased this ideal perfected body type and image. And in that pursuit, because as a perfectionist, we have that black and white thinking, that all or nothing, very extreme.
Yeah.
And I pushed myself so hard that
Mhm.
I ended up actually having a physical injury during that point. So when I did step on stage, although throughout the period of dieting down for the competition,
Mhm.
my body changed, but my mindset never did. What I saw in the mirror was exactly what it was for all the years of my, abuse, right? So
Yep.
telling myself I'm all the things. And um, looking back at that, the day I stepped on the stage, not only did I not recognize the person that was about to compete,
Mhm.
but then you throw on the spray tan, the long hair, the
Yeah.
makeup to the nines,
Mhm.
in a bikini that's barely covering yourself. And
Right.
I remember the day of the competition, I looked in the mirror and I was just like, I don't even recognize this person.
Right.
I had become somebody so different,
Mhm.
trying to become somebody else
Right.
so that I could eventually ease the pain
Mhm.
of all the years, and it never worked out.
Right.
And so that was really, I think, at this point, a breaking point to like rock bottom,
Mhm.
along with the physical injury.
Mhm.
And I think, had I not gone through that, I wouldn't have this lesson and this book wouldn't exist. And
Right.
and there's so many different points of it that's so important for every woman to realize. We can't force ourselves to become something else. It's really us stepping into who we are actually created to be. And
Love
that
that.
is the who am I.
Mhm.
And so if I'm trying to look like the next bikini model, well, then I lose who Rachel is.
Mhm.
I mean, I can't, I'm 5'1",
Yeah.
and I don't know how tall these women are, but here I am comparing myself to somebody who's probably more likely taller than 5'1",
Mhm.
has been at it for so long. Genetics come into play, and there's all these different variables. But yet, if we look externally at other women and measure ourselves up to that, of course, we're always going to fall short.
Right. The comparison. And I
Right.
just, I love that in your book because I do find that there are so many ambitious leaders within their own home, their community, their business that, suffer. When I talk to them about the narcissistic abuse, it's like you would never know that from outward appearance alone. And I felt like that, which led me to suffer in shame and in silence. And I think it goes back to like mastering your inner self so that you can master that outward manifestation and that version of yourself that you of your own self that you do wish to be, like you said. But yeah, I just thought that was really, really interesting because I do see a lot of women struggle with that. Like, our inner does not match the outer that everyone else sees. And then we're always in this, hamster wheel of trying to keep up with what everybody else is seeing that we've
Right.
perfected, that fake happiness or whatever that is.
Yeah.
So love that. And then you also are so authentic. So for November's book of the month for the book club, we dived into Becoming by Michelle Obama. And one of the things that I loved about her book was this sense of authenticity and transparency, when it comes to her marriage and other aspects. And I also found myself loving that aspect of your book as well.
Yeah.
So, with you being open about your marriage and transparent about a lot of different transgressions, again, from like page one, it didn't take you long to kind of dive in. And I just, first of all, commend you and thank you for that. Because a lot of times we as women need to read words or hear women say certain things to say, oh, wow, so I'm not alone.
Right.
But when you started with the book, was that kind of therapeutic for you once you got it on the pages? Because I know you said there are still some pages you cringe when you read back, you smile when you read back, but overall, was it therapeutic?
100%. And actually, when I was finishing, putting the finishing touches on the book, I believe I include that in the note to the reader, where the
Mhm,
process to me was so therapeutic and cathartic at the same time.
mm,
There was so much shedding and healing
mhm,
just through reliving the story, not just through like verbalizing a memory or, something bad had happened and we're just, minimize it, but really writing the process, because it's that cognitive connection between like our memories to actually writing it out. And as I was writing, I just remember like tears were stinging my eyes as I would write this.
mhm,
And then when I would read it back, like parts to my husband, um, I would get choked up at those parts, and reading it out loud to him, he said, "I didn't know you felt this way." And so
mhm.
it opened the door for
Oh,
our relationship to mend and heal
yes.
as well, because I only saw it my side.
Mhm,
And I was so engrossed in who I was that when you focus on self, you suffer
mhm,
because you're always the victim of your own, you know, story.
mhm.
If it's always about you, then no, where are we connecting with others?
Yeah.
And so that helped pour that out. And I was able to free myself through writing and really going to those deep dark places.
Mhm,
And so the rawness of the book is really, if I was able to do that and write this book, I think my biggest takeaway and wish for that reader is that they see themselves in my story and to know that they are not alone,
yep,
because we are so much more alike than we are different. And
right.
so, what pain and struggles I've gone through, they shouldn't be hidden. They shouldn't be kept in shame and secrecy,
Mhm,
because that is a tool that could help other women,
mhm,
give them the voice, give them the strength and the power.
mhm.
And I knew that this, if I had overcome this, I have to give this back to the other women
Yeah.
because they need that, because I needed it.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I mean, that is the premise of the Brave Way, is just saying, you know what? I am no longer going to suffer in silence, because if I can help one other woman,
Right.
then I have done a great thing. And with that, so I'm going to ask you this question. Did you come across anyone who said you were a little bit too open, like certain things triggered for them? Because I had a woman that I was speaking with, and she said that, like, you don't have to give so much details about your abuse. And I'm like, no, I do, though. And then, it came full circle because she realized there were things that it was triggering for her that she wasn't
Right.
yet ready to deal with. So have you come across that at all with any women that feel it was like a little too honest and open?
I wouldn't say necessarily about being too honest and open. I think that
Mhm,
there were some, and it's in the note to the reader again, that there
mhm,
is some sensitive topics in there, and
yep,
they could be trigger warnings to some.
mhm,
And I think, most people, they kind of bypass the note to the reader and they just get to reading. And then some people would mention, oh, I wasn't prepared for that. I'm like,
yeah,
I'm sorry, but without being told, it's not the truth.
yeah,
And every bit of your story
mhm,
ties in with everything you do. It's like this thread that weaves your whole life together. So without one thing, you wouldn't have the other thing. And
mhm,
so we have to tell the truth. And
mhm.
there were parts of it where I was just like, I don't want to, this is, it's heavy. I don't want to talk about
Yes,
it.
yeah,
But then it's like, I didn't realize how much that actually weighed on me that carried through all these other areas. So
yeah,
again, without it, it had to be told. So I think when coming back, if people were to say, why do you have to give so much of that detail?
mhm.
I think throughout the editing phases and stuff, there was some of my editors actually said we need more detail, because,
Really? Oh, I love
I did
that.
minimize some things
Mhm.
because it was, it's
Mhm.
painful to relive.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah.
like if you can get away with giving some of the surface, it's like, okay, this is deep, and they're like, no, we need deeper. And I
Right.
felt that, like, even from, like you said, the notes to the reader, like you jumped in. I mean, it's so funny. I don't know if you can see this. I wrote epic at the top for the story
Oh
of the
my gosh.
butterfly, because I'm like, I literally was sitting there, but she's right. Like, notes to the reader. I mean, even I'm highlighting in notes to the reader because she dives right in. She doesn't hold anything back, but it's in such a relatable girlfriend type of way where you feel as though this beautiful author right from the beginning. Like, literally, I keep saying from page one. And something else that really touched me was your story in grade school. I actually, like, I didn't cry, but I started to tear up when you were talking about, the financial, your financial story growing up and being in grade school and having pride with the free lunches and things of that nature. And what resonated with me was when you talked about striving kind of for perfection in other areas at that young age, because you realize, like, other people had like the good snacks and other people had like the other toys and whatnot. And I felt that so completely, because it wasn't that we were very, very poor. But again, like you said, I didn't realize how much we didn't have until I got to school,
Right.
because it was just full of love and family up until grade school. And then I realized for me, I shifted into striving for the best grades then, because since I can't really compete financially with you, then I'll be one of the smartest in the class. And that's how I found like my place and my role. And so, how do you feel in regards to at such a young age, we as women coming in and kind of that's where we find our place, our role.
Right. Yes. And the grade school, our family didn't have much financially.
Mhm,
And, overall, when I look back at it, because when you're young, you're just like, oh, you're like mean mommy, can't buy me my toys or
yeah.
whatever it is. And, I look back at it and it's like, again, I'm so grateful for this upbringing that my parents had given me, because they instilled so much value and love into our household
Mhm,
that it wasn't about the things or the cool vacations and snacks and all the things that all my friends had,
mhm,
but I didn't understand it, obviously, when you're so young, but
mhm,
um it instilled in me to always push and do more, because I never wanted to be without. I never wanted to be made
mhm,
feel less than. And I think that set out the pursuit even with my job. My very first job I had outside of high school, I had four promotions in 5 years. It was just what's next, what's next,
yep,
what's next. And so I chased that success. I
mhm.
thought that if I made more money, I could prove to, my peers, not like they were even remembering these things, but I remembered.
Yeah.
And so it was to prove my worth,
Mhm,
that, oh, look, now I can afford these things and now I can. And so you start seeing that perfectionism, that
mhm,
chase for something better. And when we use the word perfection, it really is about do more, please more, perfect more, repeat. And so you're pushing
yep,
yourself in every aspect as hard as you can go until there really is, you hit a breaking point and burnout.
mhm,
And I was finding that in my work. Then
mhm,
I found it in my fitness. Then I found it in my marriage.
mhm,
And so I started seeing this trend happen over different areas and periods of my life.
mhm,
And I realized that was the pursuit of perfection, because at the end of the day, I just wanted to rest. I just
mhm,
wanted peace. I
yeah,
wanted to be happy, and I wanted to be, you know, like all the things that I wanted.
mhm,
I just thought they would come to a head and then finally I could just stop,
yeah,
because it
yeah. Yeah, no, again, that in that story, when you're talking about the grade school, I remember going back to what you just said, where you wrote, that was kind of the beginning of you wanting more. And I said, wow, I had to sit back and reflect on that, because I feel the same, that it was like, okay, although I'm going to strive for the grades, that put a seed or planted something inside of me to want to be at a level playing field financially, which made me compromise certain values that I had in relationships for a lifestyle, for a wealthy lifestyle. But it stemmed from that.
right.
So yeah, that wanting more. Absolutely. That really was profound.
Right.
How you
And I
said
think
that.
I think we're all chasing after something. And that's the thing. It's like whatever that chase is, it's always starts from our value of self-worth.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I didn't value myself because when I measured myself up, I saw that fell short on the measuring stick, right?
Hmm.
And you know, you and that's partly why I share these things, is because no matter where they are, they're going to resonate. And just as you said, how you applied it to your areas and so on.
Hmm.
Um, but I think it's just important to really share that story, and because we all start back from our childhood, that
Hmm.
we're
Yep.
sponges at the time. We observe, we take in, we have so much that we carry through life. that if we continue carrying all this, things that no longer serve us
Mm-hmm.
into our adult life, that's ultimately up to us as that adult to be responsible to shed that.
Right.
And if we keep carrying this around, that's where we become victims of our own stories.
Yes. And it's like, I don't want to give too much of the book away, but I will just note this. And so for the reader, you have to find this for yourself. But I did get very angry at that mom with the doll story. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we won't go into that, but I was like, oh, I was so mad. I was so sad for you. But
Right.
yeah, speaking about self-worth and going into the story about the body dysmorphia, and I really love how you started off that chapter talking about the exercise that was done, and just kind of going into that whole perception is reality,
Yeah.
because that was all about that particular individual's perspective with her body. And I find that that is, kind of flows, that messaging flows throughout our life, whether that is how we perceive ourselves in our relationships, at work, as women. So that was really, really deep as well. And goes right back to, like you said, the self-worth aspect.
Right. And perspective is so powerful. It really is. And so, that actually allowed me to see things from a whole different perspective. Kind of talking briefly about that mother. And I
Yeah.
realize now when I look back at that, even though it was a painful memory to relive, there's so much forgiveness and healing in there because I
Yeah.
knew it wasn't about me. And
Hmm.
so if you take it back a step, she probably had something similar in her life. And that's why
Hmm.
she puts an expectation on her own children.
Yes.
So, and so when I look back at that, I'm like, I actually have compassion for it.
Hmm.
Although it did sting me, but without that having, again, where would my story be without that lesson?
Yep.
And so it's so powerful to look back at those trigger points in our lives and almost thank them. I know it's
Yes.
weird because it's like you're like, but thank them and forgive them?
Hmm.
No way. They did so, wrong to me and this and that. They did.
Hmm.
There's no doubt about it. But without them, would you be where you are?
Yep.
Would you have overcome? Would you have the lesson, it's finding the silver lining? Would you have a shift in perspective and all the goodness that comes from it?
Hmm.
And I'm so thankful for every single one of them,
Yes.
including the
The mom.
heaviest parts in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I always say it starts with changing the filter of how you view your past.
Right.
I
Right.
thank my exes every single day for, the abuse and the trauma that I dealt with in those relationships, because that led me here.
Right.
And it's all about saying this happened for me as opposed to me. And you talk a lot about being the victor versus the victim in your book. And so yeah, I think that that is like really profound, and that also leads me to your points to ponder, because it makes you read your story and then reflect on those points and really say, okay, wait, how is this applied in my life? And that is powerful, because a lot
Yeah.
of times we may even read a memoir or something and just say, oh, but that's their story, and there are certain parts that you resonate with and you're like, okay, but that's still their story. But then when you give these points to ponder, it's like, oh, wait a minute, let me think about this. And those areas, or these mindset shifts, or these things that need to occur, the compassion, the forgiveness, that is so key to moving past your old story. I just think it's so powerful. And something else that I love is when you're talking about your your late brother Jeremy, and
Mhm.
how really at that point your life became pre
Yeah.
his passing and post his passing. But in that, you found this power and said, you know what, I don't want sympathy.
Right.
This happened for me as opposed to me. And I was just like, wow, like that is, that is it for me. It's like not wanting the sympathy, not wanting the pity party, and being
Mhm.
able to pull yourself up by these different tools, and just different blessings in disguise that you come across. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember thinking that, when he passed, I would get the "Aw." And I'm
Hmm.
like, I mean, what do you say when that stuff happens? And I get it, but it's like for me it felt so uncomfortable because I didn't want that now to be a different identity to me.
Hmm.
I didn't want to be the girl whose brother passed.
Yeah.
And instead it's when I look back at the greatest gift that my brother gave me was love and courage and,
Mm-hmm.
perseverance.
Mm-hmm.
And when I look back at what he left of me, I was everything but. And so it was my job to take on and use, taking that life that was cut so short as a will and a power to persevere, to overcome, and have that power to know that, you know, every day is a gift. We don't know when it's going to happen, when it's our time. And so, what am I doing today? Am I maxing out my day? Am I making the most out of the gifts that I was blessed with?
Mhm.
Am I fulfilling my God given purpose? And so, a lot of these questions really started to eat at me. And I was just, here I am just wallowing in grief.
Yeah.
But yet, how long could I keep that cycle up?
Mhm.
And so, um, there was a lot of thinking and grieving and shedding and healing behind all of that, which just made me step out even further into who I am because of who I was back
Yeah.
then. And so when I use that fulcrum of pre and post, your life changes completely. There's
Yeah.
always that date now. It's like, oh, that was before my brother passed.
Yeah.
Oh, that was after he passed. And so it
Mhm.
became a fulcrum in my life. And for now 10 years, it's been every day, he's my reason why, because
Ugh.
he gave me that power I needed to just keep moving forward
Mhm.
and make the best of every day and become everything that he saw in me that I didn't see for myself.
Yes. Oh, I just love that. And like you said, just kind of using that as a catalyst, as your
Right.
true why. And I find that, women who are able to pull themselves up out of the trenches somehow. And I think at the time when we're doing it, we don't even know what we're doing. We just know that there's more. Like we're here to
Right.
do a little more. And whatever that little more just continues to build momentum each day, but really honing in on that true why. Because when you have that true why and you can, remind yourself of that every single day, I feel like that helps you in some ways, some days in a big way, some days in a small. But yeah, I love that. Love that. Well, I want to talk a little bit about I Am Athletics because that is your platform. And, of course, with all that you share in the story, it really comes down to your perseverance, your resilience, the bravery that you have. And, going from Jeremy's passing to post and continuing to thrive and write this book, even pushing through the fear of writing it. So compiling these tools so yeah, I love the platform that you've put together. If you can talk a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. So throughout my journey, like I said, I mean, it was just I needed these tools along the way when I embarked on it, and I felt that I was alone in my journey and I didn't
Mhm.
know who I was. And so when I really stepped into figuring it out, like I had to do it. And so going back to that self discovery, I started pulling things out of myself that I didn't know were there, because for the longest time I kept telling myself, I'm not this, I'm too, stupid, I'm too ugly, I'm too whatever, because it's like we get in that negative self-talk and we just slander and abuse ourselves.
Mhm.
And so when we start flipping that script, we become everything that we're not. So it's like the antithesis of who we think we are. We can actually become that. And so I would use these, like, not so much like affirmation or mantras, but like I would remind myself, if I said I'm, stupid, it said, I would tell myself, I am learning something new every day. And
Yes.
so I never really looked at it, going forward is like, how can I use that as momentum to become who I am?
Mhm.
And so when I fully stepped into knowing who I am, it became so empowering that I knew that I had to gift this back to women,
Mhm.
because if I was on that side, I know there's other women on there.
Right.
And so I created the line I Am Athletics because I want to empower women to create their own story.
Mhm.
That no matter what you think or believe or have been told by somebody else, you have that power to create your own.
Mhm.
And you get to flip that script. You get to become everything you want to be. And the cool thing is like you're unstoppable. You're limitless. The
Yes.
only limits we put on ourselves are the ones that are going to confine us. And so we need to let that go and step into our power. And so I was just like, oh my gosh, I want every woman to feel like their best and most confident self, whatever that
Right.
looks like. And so when I created the line, I'm like, not only is the product as unique as that individual,
Mhm.
because everything that goes into the development of the apparel is so intricate in the details. And I'm always like, it comes down to the fabric, fit, and feel. Like, you know, and so I
I
take
love
some
that.
pride in the work behind creating the craftsmanship of it,
Mhm.
but also to know that this is a line that is going, when you wear it, not only do you look your best, but you're going to feel your best. It
Yeah.
moves with you.
Mhm.
It's built for your lifestyle.
Mhm.
And so that was part of, like, you know, we to simplify things.
Mhm.
We don't need to overcomplicate things now with decisions of clothes and what to wear and who we're going to
Right.
become and what we're doing.
Yeah.
And my whole philosophy is like, how do I streamline simplicity? And so
Mhm.
that's partly with the athletic line. So I'm very proud of it. I love it. I love the products, and we're doing a relaunch early 2021 with some really
Uh,
new pieces, and I'm super excited about to add to the collection.
Good. Well, I have to grab some, and I love what you just said, streamline simplicity. Like that is the mantra with all this chaos going on, streamline simplicity. Love that. Well, please let the individuals that are tuning in know where they can purchase Chasing Perfection.
Yes, so Chasing Perfection is available at all online bookstores, and I know everything's living online
Yeah.
these days, but it should be at almost every major bookstore online. If not, there's always Amazon. And of
Yes.
course, you can order also through my website. So you can find me on all social media handles, including my website. I am Rachel Brooks.
Love it. Love it. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, if they order on your site, they get a free journal, right?
Yes,
Interactive journal. I saw that.
yes, yes.
Yes, love it. All of these tools and resources. So, well, before we wrap up, I have to ask, everyone who knows me knows that I'm a huge music lover. Music is my love language. So, what is a go-to song for you, whether that's in the gym or, just in everyday life when you just need a little bit of, pump up, a little motivation, inspiration? Like, what would that be for you?
I'd have to say one of my favorite go-tos, and I always used this at the gym, and especially when I was competing, but it always brings joy to me because it keeps that edge of, just always feeling at your peak.
Yep.
And that's Nicki Minaj's Fly.
Ah,
Love that song because it's just,
Rachel,
oh my gosh,
I
I came
love
to win, I came to
you.
fly. Like, oh,
Yes.
that was my competition theme
Yes.
song.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And I love, I find that you can tell a lot about a person by their music selection. So I
Mhm.
love that choice. I will add that to the playlist.
Yes.
Courtesy of you. And I just really appreciate your time here spent with us today. And this book, this gem, this treasure that you have left us women with, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. So I hope you continue to chart up on that best-selling, list, and wish you so much success.
Well, thank you so much. Yes,
Yes.
I'm so grateful to be here. So thank you.